Well, my father was an artist and a musician back in his day. He was a drummer. So growing up, to me, going into something creative seemed just kind of like the normal thing to do. So I did pick up the drums and I loved it, and I still feel like a drummer in disguise to this day. And it wasn't really until kind of later on in high school that I touched a guitar for the first time. My friend's older sister had one that she'd kind of cast to the side of the bedroom, obviously lost interest in, and I grabbed it, um, and fell in love straight away. I just loved making noises on it, and found it to be an easy tool to just pick up and start writing straight away on. And that's what I did. I never really learnt any songs at the start. I just started writing my own stuff, um, and that was it. I was hooked. Well, my father was a big influence for me early on, in the fact that he kind of unapologetically went all in with his artistic endeavors. And I find certain levels of that way of thinking very admirable. As far as musical influences are concerned, I kind of grew up listening to a lot of the kind of progressive rock of the 60s and 70s that my parents were into. Uh, my father being very into that, and my mother being a hippie child. We were listening to a lot of that stuff in the house, but my father was also very into jazz, so I cite a lot of the jazz stuff as being quite influential on my ear and the kind of sounds that I want to hear, as well as the classic progressive rock stuff. And it wasn't until much later that I really discovered metal and started appreciating writing it. So those things have become very intertwined. Uh, I also would cite art itself, paintings, particularly surrealism, uh, as something that influences my music a lot. In fact, all of my solo records, the music was inspired from the cover art that I use on each release. And the last three have been done by Jeff Christensen, who's an incredible surrealist artist. Um, so his artwork is very, very inspirational to me and my songwriting process. I think I'd like to think that I stand out as having a sound, at least, which to me is the most important thing and something I really put the most amount of time into. I really only worried about being kind of technically proficient up to a point. I really only wanted enough technical ability to facilitate the sounds that, and the music that I wanted to make. And once I feel like I got there, the biggest challenge was uh, actually bringing to life the music that I wanted to make, which, like I said, is kind of a mixture of what I grew up listening to, like the classic progressive rock, and more of the modern extreme metal elements. Um, so, I mean, hopefully, I stand out. As far as it being a conscious decision, it was at the start. It was difficult, and I had to make a conscious effort to really try and bring the best out of those two um, time periods of music together. But now I feel like I'm very comfortable with the style and the sounds, and I'm not trying to kind of branch out and do, you know, anything from outside that circle too much. I'm just trying to go deeper and deeper into that sound that I've made, and I feel like there's lots to explore there. So I guess to some extent at the start it was a conscious decision, but over the last few releases, it's just been something that does come quite naturally to me now. Um, yeah, that is correct. I do write, record, mix, and have mastered my own music before. There's a different process for each record, and uh, I do a lot of it in conjunction with my good friend and the drummer on the records, David Horgan, who also is very proficient with a lot of the audio side of things, and has really helped um, the records achieve a certain sound. Um, and it's absolutely beneficial. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. Just by virtue of the process, I kind of write and mix everything as I go along. It's not like a traditional thing where I kind of have all the material and then come in here or to another studio and lay it all down in one big go. It's very much I chip away at it, so to speak, and I mix it as I'm going along. Um, as far as promoting myself is concerned, I find that I haven't really done anything uh, outside the box. I'm mostly independent. I mean, I have an agent, a booking agent, which is something that happened last year, and that's certainly led to some cool opportunities. But everything you see is really just me sitting here drinking coffee and trying to make a little bit of noise. But I think the approach that I've taken is really if you just put yourself out there with sincerity and don't try and pretend, what will come is what will come. Whether it's something small and niche, or it's fed to the masses in a large sense and quickly forgotten about. I mean, however it unfolds is however it unfolds, and I've been mostly happy with how things have been progressing along naturally. Um, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier for a lot of the opportunities that have come my way and the people that appreciate my music. So I'm very thankful. Um, but I suppose at the start, the hardest part of promoting yourself is as you said, it's trying to cut through the noise on social media. But I think for myself, once I just resigned to the fact that things will happen organically, that's when I started becoming very content with, I guess, the growth of this project into what it is today. I mean, look, basically what I just said before. My tip would be just to embrace the organic growth process. Um, uh, I suppose if you have a product or you make music that people like, uh, they're gonna like it, and you're gonna grow naturally because of that. Um, I think if you solicit services to hand your music to people who may not necessarily like it, you may uh, be perceived to have a bigger audience. But those kind of people really only care about you when you're doing something, and they're not along and they're not supportive for the entire journey, which I've found to be the coolest thing. Is particularly with my fan base, just incredible support no matter what's happening and along every step of the way. So as far as tips for anyone who's independent and wanting to release solo material, um, I would say do the best you can with the music. The music is the most important thing. You have to write good, interesting music. Um, and there are a lot of fantastic avenues out there for you to make your music available to anyone who is interested in it. Um, and I'd also say get out there and play live as much as you can. Meet other musicians, become a real, breathing musical force out there in the world, as well as all of the other ways of promoting yourself. And I think, you should develop a natural fan base that really appreciates what you do and do away with all of the extra numbers and fodder that don't actually translate to anything meaningful. Well, I think uh, most musicians or groups have some kind of uh, image related to what they're doing. Um, Yeah, sure. I think some people take that a little too far, um, but historically that's been the case with a lot of commercial music. But for the most part, most of the music that I'm into, uh, I don't find that um, image has importance over the musicianship. So not so much with the stuff that I'm into. Um, uh, Not too much, to be honest. I think obviously uh, playing at home is special once you kind of break through and earn people's interest. Um, I always love playing in Australia and I always have a really great time. As far as uh, playing in the UK is concerned, the audiences I just thought were extremely welcoming, extremely interactive, uh, and for example, when I played UK Tech Fest, we were out camping with everyone, and just the love of metal was so evident with everyone. Everyone playing music constantly in their tents and just loving it. Everyone was very friendly. I think the vibe is, from what I got, was basically just a big, relaxed hippie party. Only it was extreme metal as the theme instead of rock and roll. So, look, I think from the most part, where I've traveled, the people that are interested in the kind of music that I make uh, are all fantastic people, and there's in essence not really much difference, which has been really nice. Absolutely, I'm hoping to come back this year, and have been talking to a couple of people, including another solo guitar player, about coming over to do a proper European tour this year. So fingers crossed that all works out. Well, I don't know, but I hope that in my life I just have good health and the means to be able to pursue the things that I enjoy doing. That's really all I could ask for. Um, so, yeah, thanks.